let's work on repositioning the fingers. The fingers are going to be the same process we took for the arms, in that we'll first want to remove them from our character set to avoid any hassles afterwards. Alright, so we'll go ahead and grab all roots, both the right and left sides. And with all of these selected, we'll go ahead and remove or break the connections on our rotate channels. We can leave the mid and end channels be. Alright, so we'll now go ahead and choose our upper body sub-character set and choose remove. Okay, great. You'll see that on the right side that a few of these had values. So again, just to make sure that these fingers do not pop out of place, we'll go ahead and remove them from our character set, and then at this point we can go through and find those that had values and go ahead and just zero those out. So we'll check our right side. Okay, that'll work. Let's go ahead and check the thumb also. It has values too that will need to be zeroed out. Okay, so I think we're good to go on the right side. Let's go ahead and check the left side. Then after we're done with this, we're going to want to unlock our translate channels to fit the fingers inside of the character's mesh. Okay, so it looks like all of the fingers have been zeroed out. Let's go ahead and grab each root. Go ahead and do the same thing on the right side. And now we can choose Edit. This is under the channel box, Channel Control. Let's go ahead and grab our translate channels. We should find them at the bottom of our non-keyable hidden list. So we'll go ahead and highlight them, move them over, and now we can go ahead and unlock our translate channels. Okay, so the rest of this is going to require us not only moving the fingers into place, but also reorienting the fingers with our joint orient attributes. So to kind of show you how this is going to work, and again, we don't have to mirror what we do here on the opposite side. We just need to make sure that the fingers are going to be inside of our geometry in a way that will cause them to deform accurately. So if we have placed them in the right spot, well then chances are it will look as if we have mirrored the fingers. Alright, so I'll take the thumb, kind of move that in. And now go to the end joint. Its translate channels are free, so we can safely go in and move that into our mesh. And now we can go back to our root. Notice the shape of this object is parented to the joint. So when we grab the root or grab the curve, we're actually grabbing the bone itself. Alright, so it looks like its orientation is pretty good. I'll go to the next joint, take a look at its orientation. It looks like it can be tweaked. So we could start to adjust, let's say, the z-axis to fit that better inside of our mesh. We can go to the next joint, start to adjust its orientation and the y-axis so that it fits inside of our mesh. You can see how the pivot point of this bone is offset from where it needs to be in the mesh, so no problem. Let's go ahead and switch our move tool back to object mode. It'll be a lot easier to reposition these that way. Now go ahead and just take this bone and drag it down to where it needs to be. And then we can go to the end joint and lift that up. Okay, great. So it looks like the thumb is good to go. Just want to double check and make sure. And once we're satisfied with our placement, of course, we can now go in and lock and hide our translate channels on the root we've just edited. Okay, great. We'll worry about adding those back to the character sets afterwards when we start to clean up our transforms and things like that. So we don't have to worry about adding back to our sub character set just yet. Let's go ahead and just make sure that the fingers are in place, more importantly. So we can now move to the index finger, just move that in place. We won't work on the opposite side because it's the same process, just putting the fingers, fitting them back inside of the character's mesh. So nothing special or unique about the opposite side. Alright, so we'll go ahead and now start to, let's say, tweak our values to reorient the fingers to match and conform to our mesh. And now go to the next finger joint, move that up. Okay. Careful not to move in the z-axis. We don't want to create a weird angle with our joints, as you can see. If you need to move in the z-axis, you most certainly can on these mid and end joints. We're free to do that on the root joints, but I don't like to kind of bend the angle of those end joints unless it's absolutely necessary. Just so that we have a nice flow of our orientation. So that way, when we start to rotate the fingers, we don't have any weird bends. It's a very common problem, and we'll need to make sure we avoid it by just keeping that in mind. Alright, so that looks pretty good. We can now go to the next joint and start to rotate that back. Let's see, in the z-axis, we can go ahead and start to bring that back so it fits inside of our mesh a little bit better. We can now go to the next joint and move that up. And then taking a look at this, you can see how its orientation is pointed in a different direction than the geometry itself. So no problem. We can go ahead and tweak the mid joint in this case. I'll go to the x-axis and just rotate that to fix it. And that looks much better for our end joint. So now we can go ahead and take and kind of rotate it back in the z-axis a little bit more. And now we can take our very last joint in the chain and bring that up. So you get the process. We just want to take our time and make sure that these objects fit inside of the fingers. You could always use the file I save out as reference if you need to. But that's going to be it for tweaking the fingers. So once we're done with that, we could then move to cleaning up the ARM controls and getting everything connected back to our character sets.